We know that fairies are an eclectic lot, wildly diverse in appearance and character. So let's get to know some blue ones because, well, why not? Beginning with black anise. Now you heard right, not blue anise, black anise. Remember, fairies are not always as they seem. Black anise is believed to dwell in the Dane Hills in Leicestershire, England. She has been described, rather unflatteringly, as a cannibal hag. Oh, she has blue skin and iron claws, and she lives in a cave. But black anise is not one for hibernation and slow digestion. Oh, no, she has a healthy appetite and she needs to eat regularly, but she prefers, if possible, not to be seen. So she lurks just inside the entrance to her cave and leaps out whenever a stray lamb or small child is passing nearby. But it's not only small prey. With her iron claws, she can take down deer and even cattle, so she latches onto them with these iron claws and drags them into the cave where she devours them. Now don't be thinking that she couldn't possibly bring down a deer or cattle. Her iron claws are fierce. In fact, it's believed that she digs out her cave out of the side of the hill using only her nails. Well, there is a really fascinating account told by a child who was evacuated to Leicestershire in December 1941 during the Second World War. Black anise lived in the Dane Hills. She was very tall and had a blue face and long white teeth, and she ate people. She only went out when it was dark. My mum told me that when she ground her teeth, people could hear her in time to bolt their doors and keep well away from their windows. That's why we don't have a lot of windows in Leicestershire cottages. She can only get an arm inside. My mother says that that's why we have the fire and chimney in a corner. The fire used to be on the earth floor once and people slept all round it until black anise grabbed the babies out the window, as they had no glass at that time. When black anise howled, you could hear her from 5 miles away, and then even the poor folk in the huts would fasten skins across the window and put witch herbs above it to keep her away. Oh, can you imagine the sound of her grinding teeth? It was probably a sign that she was hungry or on the hunt, I guess. It seems in earlier days that she could roam quite freely under the darkness of night and stalk houses. She was probably very familiar with all the occupants of each cottage and which families would visit other families at night. It must have been very frustrating for her when the central fire was moved into the corner of the cottage and away from her arm's length through the windows. But if there is one thing we know about fairies, it's that they are good at adapting, evolving to suit the changing world. I can't help wondering if there is only the one black anise or there are many scattered throughout hills and mountains all over the United Kingdom. I suspect there are. They appear to be skilled in concealment and stealth. Given how distracted and noisy we are these days, it would be fairly easy for her to move about quite freely. As she is described as looking like an old hag, and we all know what that means, don't we? Thin, grey, dishevelled, sickly looking, she might pass for an old woman, except for one giveaway, her blue skin. Now that would be hard to explain. Well, given we know where black anise dwells, it should be fairly easy to avoid her, but as with any of the fairy folk, they are unpredictable We just don't know where they could be. There may be few sightings these days, but we would be foolish to believe that that means black anise is gone. Always remember, fairies are canny folk, so I wouldn't write her off just yet. Well, let's go underground. The Bluecap is a fairy that dwells in underground mines and has the appearance of a small blue flame. It is well established and well believed by miners all over that if miners treat a Bluecap with respect, it will not only lead them to rich deposits of minerals, but also forewarn miners of imminent danger, such as a potentially deadly cave-in. But the Bluecap didn't just float around looking beautiful. They worked hard. Sometimes miners would see the flickering blue flame of the Bluecap settle on a full tub of coal and transport it as though impelled by the sturdiest sinews, which is to say, with great strength. Can you imagine how helpful this would have been to the hard-working miners? But the Bluecaps didn't do this work just out of the goodness of their hearts. They expected payment. Now, some miners would leave food or drink out for the Bluecap, which is lovely and no doubt, but the Bluecap expected to be paid a working man's wage, equal to that of the average putter, which is the fella who pushes the wagons. That's a hell of a job, isn't it? Bluecap would accept not more or less than this average wage, and payment was always left in a quiet corner of the mine. That's fascinating, isn't it? And it demonstrates just how seriously the miners felt about their fairy companions, the Bluecap. There was an account of the Bluecap published in the Colliery Guardian in May 1863. Take a look at this. The supernatural person in question was no other than a ghostly putter, and his name was Bluecap. Sometimes the miners would perceive a light blue flame flicker through the air and settle on a full coal tub, which immediately moved towards the rolliway, as though compelled by the sturdiest sinews in the working. Industrious Bluecaps required, and rightly, to be paid for his services, which he moderately rated as those of an ordinary average putter. Therefore, once a fortnight, Bluecap's wages were left for him in a solitary corner of the mine. I'm so intrigued by the Bluecap. These aren't some fly-by-night fairy. There is widespread belief in the Bluecap by a great many people over a long period of time. Ordinary, well-balanced working people. But again, as with black anise, times have changed and there are no longer busy mines filled with hundreds of miners. Those days are behind us, for now at least. So I wonder, what does the Bluecap do now? Do they miss human interaction? Do they ever venture out of the mines? Do they take some other form when they're above ground? And also, why blue? The last blue fairy we'll take a peek at today is a curious one, known as Blue Birches and sometimes Blue Breeches. He was well known to dwell in the county of Somerset in England. Now there is one particular fairy of this type who made a name for himself. He lived with a shoemaker and his family on the Blackdown Hills in the county of Somerset. This family sound like they were wonderful, actually. If only more people could accept fairy folk as they did. But sadly, that still doesn't mean that we're heading for a happy ending here. This wonderful family took him for a harmless hobgoblin who liked to play daily pranks on the household. But it was the son of the cobbler who came to know this fairy best of all. In fact, it sounds like they became grand old friends, and although he was said to appear in many shapes and forms, it was this boy who saw the fairy in what was widely believed to be his true physical state, looking similar to that of an old and haggard man who always wore blue birches or breeches. This tale dates from the end of the 19th century and is recorded as having been told to Mrs. Ruth Tongue by her schoolfellows in 1909 and also by a group of harvesters in Trull, Somerset in 1907. The cobbler and his family took all the pranks in good part. When heavy steps were heard descending the stairs and a wisp of blue mist drifted across the room, the cobbler only said, "Never mind old Blue Birches, he never do no harm." And he would proudly boast how Blue Birches ran across the room like a little blue pig and jumped into the duck pond without making a splash, and how when they were coming back late from market, he would set the house all aglow to make them think it was on fire. But one day the cobbler told his tales to the wrong person, one of the church parsons, who took Blue Birches to be the devil himself and soon brought along another church parson to banish this fairy. So it was, they came up and found an old white horse grazing by the duck pond. "Who's that?" the parson asked the little boy. "That be old Blue Birches, sir," said the boy. "Can you put a bridle on him?" asked the parson. The boy was proud to show the parson how friendly Blue Birches was and placed the bridle over his head. At once, both the parsons said together,
"Depart from me, you wicked!"
Blue Birches plunged into the pond and never came out again, at least not in so friendly a form. I find that quite sad, actually. It seemed like such a lovely situation, the fairy living with a good family and all getting along nicely. If only we could all live like that with the fairy. Can you imagine how wonderful that could be? I wonder if it was the fact that the parsons came to Blue Birches with religious intent, or simply that they came at him with negative or aggressive intent, which actually drove Blue Birches away, never to return. Or maybe he did return. Having lost faith in humanity, he may have returned in, as the tale said, not so friendly a form. I hope you've enjoyed our look at Blue Fairy. They're a curious bunch, aren't they? If you enjoy my videos and would like to support the channel, please consider joining me as a patron. The support of my patrons keeps this channel going, and it's a lovely group of friendly, like-minded folk to be a part of and chat with. You can find the link below for more information. Until next time, stay curious and be kind. Cheerio!